Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Coach Kyle, or Kyle Thalman. I'm a gymnast, engineer, physicist, philosopher, psychologist, all those crazy things. If you find this video helpful, please share it and subscribe to this channel. Anyway, today's question is, how do you give the perfect correction, or the most efficient and effective correction? Now, this question has been bugging me for like a decade or more, because anytime you try and tell somebody to do something to fix, whatever they're trying to do, there's an infinite way to do that. You could say, keep your legs straight, don't bend your knees, the tone of your voice, your body language, almost everything can wrap into how you give corrections and making them more effective, more efficient, so that, because a gymnastics coach, we have like thousands corrections an hour. It's like tighter, point, tight, jump higher, whatever the correction is. The more efficient you are and effective your corrections are over a long period of time, you're going to see huge differences in results just on how you do corrections. So I've developed, I think, 7 rules that I use to try and, get every correction to be the most effective and impactful. Every time I give a correction, it's going to work. It's going to help them out. There's going to be changes. Rule number 1 is to keep it short. Most people don't have an attention span longer than 30 seconds anyway, and that's like adults. So if you're working with kids, you got to keep it short, to the point, like 5-10 seconds tops of like, all right, do this, when that happens, and then move on. Okay, next kid. And then the second reason is that it just saves time. Okay, if you're coaching, 10 kids, and in the hour you got to split it up, so each kid gets 6 minutes of your time if you got 10 of them. And if you spend 2 minutes on one kid telling him one correction, that's like, you've just wasted a bunch of time by going into a long, drawn out, well, this is why, and then it's going to transfer to this skill in 3 years. They don't need to know that. They need to know exactly what to do right now. Keep it quick, okay? Short and to the point for your corrections. Rule number 2 is to frame your correction in a positive structure. Now, what I mean by that is you can say it in a negative structure or a positive structure. So, like, don't bend your legs is in the negative because it has a don't in there. Keep your legs straight is the positive. Okay, now that may seem trivial, but when you tell somebody don't bend your legs, their brain has to first think about bending their legs and then the opposite. So it's a 2-step process in their brain. If you say keep your legs straight, all they have to do is imagine tightening their legs and keeping them straight. So it's a 1-step process. Now, this may seem like silly and trivial, but if you're giving them 1,000 corrections over, a week's time, it adds up, okay? The less mental effort you have to do as the athlete, the better you're going to perform. So if every correction you're getting, if you get 1,000 corrections a week, and every single time you have to think, okay, don't bend the knees, imagine bending the knees, and then reverse that in your brain to straight legs, the difference is really going to add up over time. Rule number 3 is to use sensory language in your corrections. So that means using sight or touch or the kinesthetic feeling in your corrections. So say, all right, when you set for the back tuck, spot the thing. Look over there and see the floor before you pull your knees over your head. Or feel your hands push off the ground and then lift your chest up. Or have them visualize things. So it's most people in gymnastics or a sport, it's usually mostly visual and kinesthetic, so touch based. So if you have them visualize reaching back, pretend there's a wall back here, and then reach back for it, or pretend there's like a shelf and you want to jump onto it. Having them visualize and have them also imagine the feeling of lifting their chest or punching hard in their legs or whatever it is. Will be much more effective than just like keep your arms up. Feel your arms squeezing by your head instead of just arms up. It just seems to work better. Rule number 4 is to deliver the corrections in a neutral tone and neutral body language. So you want to, the kids probably know they messed up somewhere, or even if they didn't, it hurts. It kind of hurts your feelings when somebody's like, you suck at this, or you did it wrong right there. And they're, there's anger or frustration in the coach's tone, it adds more stress to the athlete. And if they're already stressed about freaking out because they might land on their head, break their neck, yada yada, and then on top of that they feel stressed because the coach is hating on them or really frustrated or angry with them, that's gonna make them freak out more, which is gonna it gets worse and worse. So you want to really this one's tough. You want to control your emotions, point out corrections like you're pointing out furniture. It's like the chair is over there. Keep your legs straight. And you don't want to get aggressive body posturing, because that will also signal to them, oh no, stress response, fight or flight. And it's not going to help anybody. Okay, so keep your corrections in a neutral tone of voice and body language. Rule number 5 is to never criticize them personally or judge them personally. Okay, the correction should be this happened, fix it this way. Okay, just neutral, kind of like the last rule, but make sure you don't go after them personally. You're never gonna get this. You always do this. You're never gonna make the state meet. You're not gonna make on the team. We're gonna kick you off the team. You gotta keep it, your emotions out of it, and don't judge or criticize them personally, because that really hurts. And just like I said, if they're freaking out on top of being scared, they think that you hate them or they're gonna be kicked off the team. It gets way worse. I've seen a lot of students actually quit because coaches will go after them personally instead of just, trying to fix the problem. Instead of getting so frustrated, they take it out on the kid. Never take it out on the kid. It's not their fault. It's kind of your fault because you're the coach and you haven't figured out how to give them the correct correction. Rule number 6. We want to add some positivity into your corrections and make it seem like it's easier than it is to fix. Or just make everything seem easy, like it's a really easy fix, whatever your correction is, whatever they need to change, make it be you got it in the next turn. And then add some positives. Say hey, you did this part right, we just need to change this little thing, and then it'll be good. You want to make sure that they don't get discouraged. This one kind of links back into those other rules, because if you look up neurochemistry, happy people will learn better and retain the information for longer. So keep your athletes happy and motivated, and they'll do better. All right, the last rule number 7, is that if you haven't seen a change in 2 or 3 tries or turns, do something different. Now, when I say change, I don't mean improvement, okay? If they do something different, it might not be exactly what you want, okay? If they're doing back full, layout full twist, that's pretty complicated. And you're telling them to get their head in on their set or not over rotate, whatever it is, that's pretty tricky to figure out. They're still, if they're young, they're still figuring out how their body works. So, if they're making changes, but it's not the changes you wanted, at least they're trying, okay? If you've seen them do it 5 times in a row, exactly the same, and you've told them the same correction, you got to change something. Okay, it means either one, usually that means they don't understand what you're talking about. Hey, do you understand what the correction means? And so many times they're no, I actually don't. I was just trying. It's oh, okay. Then you got to explain it differently. Add some more imagery or visualizations or whatever. You just try different things. Also, if you're not getting any changes at all, they just might be too scared of the skill. Okay, that's a whole nother video for later. But if your heart rate is too high, your brain actually shuts down and they literally cannot focus or make changes. It will not happen until they can calm down. So, if they're too scared, yelling at them or telling them a different way to do it or trying to motivate them any other way, it doesn't matter. If they're too scared, their brain literally shuts down and it won't happen. Now, there are times when I do break my own rules. If they haven't gotten, I'm trying to keep the correction short, but they still haven't gotten it, and I've said it 7 different ways, I might stop them and be okay, I'm going to go a little more in depth. It might be a 2-minute correction for them just because I've tried everything else and I can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. Break these rules when you need to. The other one is sometimes I will use aggressive body posture and or an angry, frustrated tone, but that is only when the kid is or athlete is doing something dangerous. If safety is concerned, I will get very angry and they'll feel very stressed out because I want them to. It's usually if they're goofing off and they're going to hurt themselves or they're going to hurt somebody else, I'll go, dad angry voice on them. And then they know, oh, crap, I don't do that again. But that's only when, yet again, danger. That's the only time I'll get really negative or aggressive body language with the kids. Other than that, I'm happy-go-lucky. It's either happy, yes, you did it right, or neutral, fix this. So how do you start implementing this in your own coaching? First of all, I'd say start with, Rule 4 and 5, the one where if your emotions are taking control and you're like letting your frustration control how you interact with the kids or the athletes, you really need to fix that as soon as possible. Because that's it's bad for the athletes, it's bad for you, you're going to lose athletes because they don't want to work with you. It's really important to be able to control your emotions and also control how you're expressing yourself. Even if you're going to get frustrated, you need to control how that comes out in your corrections and your coaching. So, and this one's really tricky because there's a few people I know that what they think is a neutral tone is actually really aggressive and stressful when kids hear it. So, I had to ask around and be like, hey, when I'm giving corrections, do I sound like a crazy person and really angry? This took at least a year for me to really analyze myself and go, okay, that was a little too much. I need to bring it back, get back into neutral corrections, even though this kid is driving me absolutely nuts. And it's like, why don't you listen? I can't do that. I got to be like, okay, maybe try this, take a deep breath. Lots of meditation, actually, that helps. But really, get your emotions under control so you don't lash out at the kids emotionally. Number one, start with that. After that, I would just pick a rule. Like if you need to shorten your corrections, just write it on your arm or whatever. Give yourself little reminders and work on it for a week to a month. I will say the most difficult rule to change was the positive framing, because growing up as a gymnast, I heard don't bend your knees thousands and thousands of times. So when I started coaching, it was don't bend your knees. And then I learned this psychological fact from, I think it was actually hypnotism, because they, use suggestions and they tell you what's easier for the brain to understand. Anyway, so it took me at least 2 years of when I'd be like, all right, don't bend keep your legs straight, and it took about 2 years of just eliminating all of those. You've got flex feet. No. Point your toes. Especially just keep your neck straight when you set for back layouts, back fulls, whatever. For tumbling, instead of don't throw your head back, because don't throw your head back, the brain has to think, all right, head back, bad, what else? So I can say neck straight on the set or spot while you're setting. That also works. So it takes a while. If you've been doing it for a long time, it's tough, but it really helps your athletes. If you guys have any questions or thoughts on this, put it down in the comment section down below. If you like it, please share this video, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you share it. I don't know. And subscribe to this channel if you thought this was helpful. I'm Coach Kyle. Rock on.